The gala was a swirl of laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of a string quartet. As I stood outside the grand hall, adjusting my hair in the reflection of the window, a sense of unease prickled at the back of my mind. I was ready to shine, to reclaim my spotlight amidst my friends and family. But then the doors swung open, and she appeared, Chiara. Dressed in a flowing gown that accentuated her curves, she glided into the room like a breath of fresh air, her beauty captivating everyone. Heads turned, whispers cascaded through the crowd, and my heart sank. The undercurrent of jealousy surged, tightening around my chest like a vice. From that moment, I could tell this woman was going to be a thorn in my side. My son, Alessandro, stood there, the proud husband in a crisp suit, with an adoring gaze fixed on her, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. My name is Sophia, and I have always been the center of attention, the matriarch of our family. At 40, I still felt vibrant, yet standing next to Chiara made me acutely aware of the passing years. Married to Miguel and the mother of Alessandro, I had always relished my role, but Chiara's mere presence threatened to eclipse everything I cherished. The warmth I once reveled in was now laced with disdain, all because of this young woman who seemingly had it all. As dinner commenced, I sat strategically across from Chiara. With each bite she took, I watched her, locking in every error she made, as if documenting proof for my campaign against her. She enthusiastically shared how she was experimenting with new recipes, her eyes sparkling with joy. "That sounds interesting," I remarked with a curt smile, injecting just enough sarcasm to let her know she was out of her league. As guests complimented her cooking, I dismissed their praise, asserting my superiority with a condescending laugh. "Oh, you know how it is, Chiara just loves to try new things," I said, gritting my teeth. The table buzzed with laughter, but my heart thudded heavily in my chest as I felt my authority slipping away. My thoughts raced, reeling with insecurity as I tried to convince myself that I was still the most important woman in Alessandro's life. I deserved to be respected as a daughter-in-law and a mother, I whispered to myself, clinging to that thought as if it were a lifeline. As the evening progressed, I felt the wine flowing through my veins, fueling my resentment. Flashes of Chiara reveling in laughter with Alessandro ignited something dark within me. They shared whispers and sweet smiles, a bond that was forming right before my eyes and a reality I refused to accept. In a moment of impulsive cruelty, I decided to make my mark, the perfect plan to shatter the illusion of her perfection. As Chiara passed me with her knockout smile, I swiped my glass of red wine, feigning a stumble. The crimson liquid cascaded across her pristine dress, staining the fabric. Gasps echoed around the table, and I couldn't help but feeling a rush of adrenaline, a fleeting sense of victory. Her shock was palpable, and the room exploded with a mix of sympathy for her humiliation and delight from me, hidden under a veil of faux concern. I leaned in, a facade of apologies at the ready. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry, Chiara. Such a clumsy mistake. Would you like to borrow my shawl?" My heart raced as I delivered my lines, relishing the moment when all eyes were on her, not me. In that split second, I felt powerful, the thrill of humiliation washing over me as the seeds of my plan took root. Flashes of the past drifted through my mind like pages turning in a book I couldn't put down. Before Chiara entered our lives, family gatherings were a delightful chaos of laughter and love. I remember the times when Alessandro would sit next to me at the dinner table, his eyes sparkling with admiration as I recounted stories from my childhood or shared my latest culinary creations. I was the undisputed queen of family functions, the one who orchestrated every detail, from the decorations to the menu. But the arrival of Chiara had altered the dynamics irrevocably. The way she fit seamlessly into our family, as if she belonged there all along, made my blood boil. Each forced smile we exchanged felt like shards of glass. Each passive-aggressive comment I made masked my rising contempt. I recalled with bitterness the initial gathering where it all began. Chiara was eager to impress. She had gladly volunteered to cook a dish she claimed represented her heritage. But to my dismay, it was a modern recipe far removed from our family's traditional meals. My stomach churned at the thought. As the evening progressed, I watched my family taste her dish with delight. I needed to seize this chance to undermine her confidence. "Interesting flavor choice, Chiara. It's not quite like my grandma's chicken pot pie, is it? But hey, we all need our little experiments in the kitchen, right? I laughed, the laughter of others ringing hollow in my ears. Her confidence faltered, a flicker of uncertainty passing across her face, and although it briefly soothed my twisted satisfaction, it fueled my desire for more. Through the months, I found that family dynamics began shifting toward Kiara's favor. I felt it more and more during our customary family gatherings. My role was diminishing, and she was inching closer to my spot at the head of the table. Every laugh she earned was a nail in my proverbial coffin. In those moments, resentment would bubble within me like a simmering pot, threatening to boil over. I remember the way she'd laugh with Alessandro, how their shared glances ignited jealousy that pierced my heart like an arrow. As the holidays approached, I was determined to maintain control. I planned every detail meticulously, resisting Kiara's suggestions, dismissing her ideas as too modern or not family-friendly. I could sense her weariness with my snide remarks, but I thrived on the discomfort I caused. Kiara had tried to bring a sense of balance, suggesting we incorporate some new traditions. I had shot her down. Why fix what isn't broken? Our family has stuck to traditions for generations. It's how we stay connected. I snapped, the satisfaction of her defeated posture momentarily lifting my spirits. Yet with every small victory, I sensed small signs of hostility bubbling beneath the surface. Kiara seemed undeterred by my cold remarks, determined to continue embracing our family. Each holiday gathering, she wore a smile that felt like a challenge. I would watch her craft delightful decorations, or engage with the younger members of our family, as though she was born to do it. My bitterness grew deeper with each interaction. I was losing control, and I felt like a lion cornered by a hyena. One particularly humiliating episode played like a painful loop in my mind. Kiara had organized a family project, a charity event to help underprivileged kids. Her enthusiasm radiated, and despite feeling obligated, I couldn't suppress my urge to intervene. In front of everyone, I casually mentioned, "That's sweet, Kiara, but don't you think your ideas are a bit ambitious?" I could see the momentary hurt in her eyes, though she quickly masked it behind a polite smile. Alessandro, my dear, sweet son, offered her unwavering support, and my heart dropped. He insisted it was a wonderful idea, further isolating me. The event turned out to be a resounding success, and with each glowing commendation from our family regarding Kiara's efforts, I felt a dagger twist deeper into my heart. I had tried to sabotage her, and instead, the situation became a platform for her emerging brilliance. As Kiara showed me her partnership with Alessandro through this initiative, it was like swallowing bitter pills, each one more painful than the last. The strength of their shared purpose personified everything I had lost, and all my efforts to contain her presence seemed futile. With every gathering, I watched Kiara assume a greater role in the family, each day sharpening the divide between us. My righteous indignation morphed into a toxic blend of hatred and fear that flourished in the dark corners of my heart. Kiara had become a symbol of everything I detested: youth, beauty, and resilience. I was losing my place, my heart racing faster with each family function. As the season of giving approached, I found myself retreating into the shadows, watching Kiara flourish while I withered from resentment. It became painfully clear that my beloved family was slipping through my fingers like sand, settling only in the hands of the bright young woman who continued to stir the pot of change against my wishes. Each moment I witnessed their happiness was a vivid reminder that I was fighting a battle I could not win. Tension hung thick in the air as I faced Kiara at yet another family gathering. The aroma of her roast chicken wafted through the room, almost intoxicating. I couldn't allow her to win over my family with mere cooking. My instincts told me that gathering information about her would be my way of dismantling her growing influence. I had witnessed the subtle erosion of my role amidst her blossoming confidence, and I was determined to understand her better, to find her weakness. As the evening unfolded, I positioned myself strategically at the dinner table. With every bite Kiara took, I observed her closely, like a hawk circling its prey. Family members showered her with praise as they savored her culinary efforts. I couldn't resist throwing in my own verbal darts, aiming for the heart. "It looks great, Kiara, but you know our family really values presentation as well as taste in gatherings like these. I quipped, feigning a light tone, my smile hiding the razor-sharp jealousy that lurked beneath. I relished the fleeting moment when I spotted her smile twitch ever so slightly. It was a small victory, a reminder that I still had a voice in this family. Yet, as I scrutinized her, I felt a wave of resentment building inside me. Kiara's ability to connect with others only intensified the knot of jealousy in my stomach. It was challenging to witness her charm break down the walls I had carefully constructed. As dessert was served, I resolved it was time to seize control once more. I casually interjected, "That's sweet of you, Kiara, but raising kids isn't as glamorous as it looks online. You might want to take my advice on this one." The condescension dripped from my words, a feeble attempt to establish my authority. I caught a flicker of something in her eyes, surprise perhaps? Or was it annoyance? Whatever it was, it ignited a fire within me. As the night dragged on, I thought about the tactics I could use to strengthen my influence. Immediately, I began to consider a stealthy reconnaissance mission. I would observe Kiara closely and seek flaws in her perfect facade. During post-dinner mingling, I covertly initiated hushed discussions about Kiara with my family members, strategically planting seeds of distrust. "Did you know Kiara thinks our family traditions are old-fashioned?" I suggested with a saccharine smile, relishing the way their expressions shifted from warmth to skepticism. There was something intoxicating about playing puppet master and watching my family's affection for her wane. Yet still, guilt gnawed at me in quiet moments. I couldn't help but reflect on how healthy family dynamics should encourage understanding rather than division. Every time Kiara laughingly interacted with my son Alessandro, that internal struggle intensified. Whispering doubts filled my mind. Why can't I just embrace her? We could bond over cooking or family secrets. But each affectionate exchange made my heart feel heavy with resentment, and the warmth around her grew heavier. As weeks passed, I noticed, with mounting concern, that Kiara was becoming more vigilant, almost defensive. It was as if she sensed the tension in the air, and had started erecting barriers around her. Stubbornly, I interpreted her heightened awareness as proof of her intentions, convinced she was plotting against me. I leaned into the negativity, convinced I was protecting my family and its heritage with every machination. This battle felt noble, but as darkness loomed, I became increasingly aware of the thin ice I stood upon. One fateful evening, the tide shifted dramatically. Wandering through the house while everyone was busy preparing for dessert, I stumbled upon Kiara in the garden. She was pacing anxiously, muttering into her phone. I instinctively crouched down, straining to hear snippets of her conversation. Recordings and family dynamics. Panic clawed at my insides, squeezing my heart. What was she planning? Collecting evidence against me? I felt a cold sweat creeping along my spine, my mind racing with possibilities. Was she gearing up for a confrontation, armed with secrets of her own that could expose my tactics? Retreating from the window, I felt the weight of a storm brewing around us. I was determined that Kiara wouldn't outsmart me or disrupt the status quo I'd fought so hard to maintain. I understood that in this psychological chess game, I had to strike first. If she wanted a showdown, I would deliver it in my own way, by erasing any chance she had to manipulate the family against me. The stakes were rising, and I realized that for every strategic move she made, I had to counter it with equal intelligence. I resolved that I would not let Kiara's cunning undermine my standing. Underneath the layers of confusion and resentment, I began devising a new plan, one that would bring my family back under my influence. It was time to remind Kiara that I was the matriarch of this family, and that my reign was far from over. The days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment, the conflict between Kiara and me escalated to new heights. I could sense a storm brewing, a clash of wills that would ultimately define our family for generations. My mind was a battlefield, teetering between sabotage and self-preservation, and I was fully invested in my strategy to reclaim my position. One evening, I orchestrated a family dinner, determined to expose Kiara's weaknesses before everyone. I knew a gathering would allow her charm to work its magic, and unwittingly provide me with ammunition against her. I pulled out all the stops, planning a lavish meal with old family recipes and traditions. As I meticulously set the table, I envisioned how everything would unfold. how I would draw out Kiara's shortcomings while showcasing my own strengths. On the evening of the dinner, Kiara arrived early, armed with her usual enthusiasm. She blended seamlessly into the household, interacting with my children as if she belonged there. A knot twisted in my stomach. Every warm smile she exchanged with them felt like a personal affront. I took a deep breath, determined to maintain my composure. I initiated light banter around the dinner table, setting the stage for the spectacle I had envisioned. As we sat down to eat, I strategically cued the conversation about family traditions, knowing it would trigger a reaction. You know, Kiara, these recipes are not just food. They carry years of history and love. Each dish has a story. Do you have any family recipes you cherish? I posed the question innocently, masking my true intent. I could see her brain ticking, weighing her response. She hesitated for only a moment before smiling brightly. Actually, I do have a few. My grandmother used to make a fantastic tomato sauce that I would love to share with everyone. There it was, the glimmer in her eye that immediately sparked something sinister in me. I felt my blood run cold as the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She was trying to establish her own narrative. How lovely, Kiara. A fresh perspective is always welcome, but it's really about the technique, right? The way we blend our spices matters just as much as the ingredients themselves. I hope you insist on teaching our kids the right ways too, I interjected, my voice casual yet layered with an undertone of scrutiny. My family's gaze shifted between us, the air thick with unspoken tension. Kiara didn't back down. Her smile widened, and I could detect a hint of triumph in her response. Of course, Sophia. There's always room for learning, right? After all, traditions evolve, and I think it's okay to explore new flavors in an old dish. It adds richness to our family history. Her words were framed in sweetness, but they felt like arrows shot directly at my heart, piercing through my defenses. The conversations continued to swirl, spiraling into anecdotes and shared laughter over stories of family gatherings. Yet I remained the orchestrator of controlled chaos. I nudged others to share their own family recipes, pushing Kiara's tomato sauce further into the background. Her enthusiasm began to dim as I maneuvered expertly, dodging her attempts to steal the spotlight. I was relentless, watching her deflate as I mined for anything that might expose her flaws. After dinner, I proposed we move to the living room for coffee and dessert, where the real curtain raiser would commence. I could sense Kiara's frustration quietly building as the children rushed to be near me, eager to help serve the special dessert I had prepared for the evening. My mother's decadent chocolate cake. It's amazing how the traditions we hold dear bring everyone together, I said lightly, trying to guide the conversation back to the roots. Tell me, Kiara, have you ever seen the face of a child who takes their first bite of my cake? The joy is infectious. Nothing can replace that kind of happiness or love. But Kiara, refusing to wilt under pressure, turned the focus on herself. I believe you can create that same feeling with any cake, Sophia. Maybe we should try making a new dessert together next time? It could be a fun family project. Her smile was beaming, but behind it lay determination. Each word only fueled my fire. She was daring to tread on my turf. The tension grew until I could sense the atmosphere crackling around us. And I intervened again, unwilling to relinquish my control. A fun project? That sounds delightful, but let's not forget that some recipes come with their own expectations. Not all family activities end in deliciousness, do they? My words dripped with honeyed sarcasm, cloaking the poison beneath. Kiara's response was immediate, and her expression hardened for the first time that evening. I believe every attempt is worth something, Sophia. It shows the willingness to connect and grow, regardless of the outcome, she shot back, and amidst the swirling emotions, a challenge ignited between us. It was an unmistakable turning point. The moment when the air thickened, each of us digging in our heels for what was to come. I watched as her defiance radiated through the room like a spark, igniting the simmering controversy I was orchestrating. Energy shifted, conversations quieted as they felt the impending clash. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the excitement of the approaching confrontation propelling me forward. As dessert was served, I leaned back, confident in my plan. I had one last card to play. I had already discreetly gathered some family members who had grown uneasy about Kiara's influence. They were my allies, and they would support my perspective in this escalating battle. My voice rang out across the table, filled with feigned lightness, but laced with an edge. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could continue our family traditions amid the influx of modern ideas, Kiara? Perhaps your new flavors can wait, at least during dinner table discussions? The room fell silent as Kiara blinked, her composure finally fracturing. The onslaught of my words hung thick in the air. I watched her mask slip for just a brief moment. A flicker of anger mixed with hurt before she masked it again with a confident smile. But I remained steadfast, knowing that in our family traditions mattered. I prepared myself for the next round, ready to solidify my dominance. The conflict between us wasn't merely an enmity. It was a matter of pride, a struggle for place, and after this moment, I knew there would be no going back. With each interaction, it became clear that this battle was only beginning, and I had every intention of emerging victorious, no matter the cost. As the weeks dragged on, the tension between Kiara and me transformed into an intricate web of manipulation and rivalry, a high-stakes game of chess I felt compelled to play. Each ploy and counterploy seemingly tightened the noose around my family's unity. I had orchestrated my campaign, sowing seeds of doubt and subtly undermining Kiara's influence in our family. Yet, even as I watched her charm begin to show cracks, I sensed the iron resolve within her strengthen. In this environment of escalating confrontation, driven by both curiosity and desperation, I felt an overwhelming need to investigate Kiara's intentions. I couldn't navigate this perilous landscape without understanding her motives. Hidden beneath layers of outward warmth, what did she truly desire? What could her true intentions spell for our family? Determined to find answers, I began to sift through old family albums, letters, and memories stored in boxes tucked away in the attic. One rainy afternoon, as drops pattered against the windows, I unearthed an old, dusty box that smelled of time, of stories long buried. Tracing my fingers over the fragile paper, I discovered letters from an ancestor named Ederi. These correspondences revealed a tapestry of familial conflict, jealousy, and betrayal, mimicking the emotional tumult I was experiencing with Kiara today. Had Ederi faced struggles in a family much like mine? Perhaps within those musty pages, I could glean wisdom to aid me now. I scribbled critical phrases into my notebook, formulating a plan to strategically leverage this newfound knowledge. Realizing that confrontation was inevitable, I waited for the right moment. My opportunity arose at a family charity gala, amid an array of lively chatter and clinking glasses. The event bustled with familiar faces, but it was the sight of Kiara that nearly set my heart racing. She glowed, radiating warmth, her laughter drawing people to her like moths to a flame. I swallowed hard, pushing down the jealousy that threatened to bubble over. If I was to unearth her true intentions, this evening would prove pivotal. I meticulously approached her, determined to create an environment where I could test the waters of her motives without raising alarms. Kiara, we need to talk. Have you ever considered the undercurrents that flow through our family's dynamics? It's fascinating how disagreements can simmer beneath the surface, isn't it? I framed my inquiry casually, concealing how my heart raced with urgency beneath my outward calm. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but her voice remained unwavered. It's intriguing how you perceive it all as conflict, Sophia. Perhaps it's actually about growth and connection that we should be focusing on. A coolness shrouded my response. Did she intend to undermine what had always mattered to me? I pressed on, needing clarity. Growth has its place, but I refuse to sacrifice our traditions. Surely you understand that they form the bedrock of who we are, right? With a self-assurance that swirled in the air between us, Kiara replied. Traditions shouldn't be stagnant, Sophia. They need to evolve to remain meaningful. Embracing change will allow us to create a thriving legacy together. Wouldn't you agree? The thought of Kiara, with all her unfamiliar suggestions, influencing our family legacy, ignited a flare of anger deep within me. The tension electrified the air as we locked eyes, the silence deafening. I excused myself under the excuse of reloading my drink, stepping out to the quiet terrace to catch my breath. Under the dim glow of stringed lights, thoughts whirled in my head. I would not be cornered. I resolved to tighten my grip on the situation, vowing to expose Kiara's hidden schemes. Instead of cowering, I opted to orchestrate an elaborate family game night. A controlled environment where I could gauge Kiara's weaknesses while appearing welcoming and social. This might be my chance to draw her out while keeping the distractions alive. Game night arrived, bursting with laughter and friendly tension. I prepared the refreshments with zeal, setting the comfortable atmosphere to promote camaraderie, but secretly, my heart raced for an opportunity to pry into Kiara's mind. As the night progressed, I guided conversations back to family traditions, posing questions that would allow me to delve deeper into her psyche. I leaned over for another round of questions once the tone started to wane, inviting Kiara into a game where honesty was the objective. What do you perceive as our family's most significant challenge right now? Between traditions and the new, how do we find balance? I asked, the air thick with expectation, as I sat back intensely focused on her response. With unwavering confidence, Kiara shared, bridging gaps is tough since we all face different perspectives. Even if disagreements arise, I believe it's our connections that matter most. We should find ways to agree, not divide. Her conviction rang out, a bell tolling in my mind. In a strategic move, I introduced a round of truth or dare, determined to prod Kiara where it might hurt most. I could feel the air grow heavy as I posed my question. Truth or dare, Kiara? What does tradition truly mean to you? I leaned in expectantly, my heart leaping at the potential of her revealing something crucial. Pausing momentarily, she met my gaze with an intensity that sparked concern. Tradition is about honoring our past while embracing possibilities. I'm here to inspire new beginnings while keeping the heart of the family intact. We should all be open to change, don't you think? Her statement hung in the air like an echo, reverberating among family members. I felt the burgeoning unrest ripple through our group. Was Kiara positioning herself as the harbinger of a new family narrative? Something darker loomed within the laughter. The silence that rang between our dynamic, a clear undercurrent of conflict I hadn't noticed until now. The revelation hit me hard. Kiara was not merely trying to fit in. She was actively reshaping our family's legacy. The stakes had heightened, and in a flash, clarity struck me. I realized my grip on family traditions needed reaffirmation. I wasn't merely fighting for my voice. I was tasked with safeguarding the very identity woven into our lineage. As the night concluded, I reaffirmed my commitment to ensuring that our family legacy remained rooted firmly in tradition, even while navigating changes with wisdom and strategy. I vowed to confront Kiara's underlying manipulations openly as soon as the opportunity arose. I would not rest until I had protected what was rightfully mine. The enduring love and history of our family. Armed with knowledge and conviction, I prepared for the showdown ahead, ready to reclaim the family narrative and unveiling the truth behind Kiara's true schemes. The aftermath of the family game night lingered like thick fog, each familiar sound echoing the unresolved tension that had settled between Kiara and me. I felt weighed down by a mix of dread and determination. The time had come to confront her about the ambitions I suspected were lurking behind her charm. It was no longer just a matter of protecting our traditions. It was about safeguarding the heart of our family from the disruption she seemed eager to introduce. After several restless nights filled with swirling thoughts, I finally devised a plan. The next family gathering needed to serve as a platform, not just for my concerns, but to tackle the growing divisions within us. A weekend brunch felt ideal. A lively setting where the air was thick with food and chatter, allowing for heartfelt discussions and potentially heated exchanges without it feeling like a battleground. I resolved to invite family members I trusted to stand with me. I needed allies, not just for emotional support but to articulate shared concerns and foster a sense of unity. As I prepared for the brunch, my heart raced with anticipation. Each plate I set on the table, our cherished family heirloom dishes, invoked treasured memories of past gatherings alive with laughter and connectedness. Arranging each item was like weaving a tapestry, a reminder of our lineage. I was mixing nostalgia with urgency, knowing that this brunch had the potential to either reinforce our bond or fracture it further. When the guests began to arrive and mingle, an electric atmosphere filled the room. Just as I had hoped, the familiar sense of warm bread and brewing coffee blended with the sounds of light-hearted conversation, momentarily masking the tension I was determined to address. I waited for the perfect moment, allowing the conversations to flow before I stood and tapped my glass gently, capturing everyone's attention, including Kiara's. I'm so grateful to have everyone here today. As we gather around this table, let us celebrate our family spirit and reflect on our shared history. Yet it seems we are at a crossroads regarding our legacy. Change is on the horizon, and I feel we need to address it openly, especially in light of how it affects us. Kiara, I invite you to share your thoughts, I said, my eyes steady on her. I hoped to place her on the spot as diplomatically as possible, while my heart raced in tandem with a simmering anxiety. Kiara's initial surprise faded quickly, but I noticed a flicker of defiance spark in her expression. Sophia, I appreciate that you're trying to protect our traditions, but evolution is necessary. We can't cling to the past out of fear. Our family needs to grow and adapt to remain relevant. I want to enrich our family's traditions, not dismantle them, but it feels that there are those who resist change at every turn. A pregnant pause engulfed the room, tension palpable as everyone processed the implications of her words. I felt a mix of frustration and urgency rise within me. That's exactly my point, Kiara. Evolution doesn't have to mean annihilation. It can weave new weft with old fabric. But if we lose sight of the core values that connect us to our ancestors, we risk losing everything. Our identity, our unity. As Kiara opened her mouth to respond, several relatives jumped in, trying to ease the intensity. Maybe we should approach this as an opportunity to discuss how we can blend both old and new, suggested my cousin Emily. More voices joined in, prompting an unexpected exchange of viewpoints. Traditions have meaning. They reflect who we are, another family member chimed in. But new ideas can also bring us together in unexpected ways. Let's not forget the joy that comes from reinventing how we celebrate. I seized this moment. The tension in the room, once cloying, now felt surprisingly constructive. I decided to steer the conversation toward collaboration. What if we tried creating new family activities that respect our history, while inviting fresh perspectives? Seasonal events that incorporate both cherished traditions and newcomers could engage everyone's ideas. Kiara shifted in her seat, eyebrows arching slightly as she considered my suggestion. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, the defenses starting to soften. That could be worth exploring. Maybe we could try thematic gatherings each season that combines our past with the present. Something that could bridge the gap between us. Pleased with her increasingly receptive demeanor, I felt a surge of excitement at the thought of unity and collaboration. The atmosphere in the room had shifted. I could see others nodding in agreement, voices chiming in openly. The tension began to dissolve as laughter, stories, and memories of family traditions we all cherished emerged, creating warm connections amid the heated discourse. Eventually, the discussion transformed into a brainstorming session, filled with laughter and anecdotes of past gatherings, all intertwined with hopes for the future. Kiara and I exchanged glances laced with a newfound understanding, realizing we were both ultimately motivated by the same desire: the well-being of our family. The dialogue continued to flourish, and I briefly stepped back to witness my relatives rediscover their bonds. The challenge had initially felt insurmountable. Yet now, it appeared like we were overcoming the schism with each insight shared. As brunch wound down, I took a deep breath, overwhelmed by a sense of relief and gratitude. The confrontation that had loomed so ominously had transformed into an open dialogue that brought us all closer. Kiara and I were not adversaries. We had become collaborators, both invested in the preservation and growth of our family legacy. Seeing smiles around the table radiated warmth. This was a moment where love, resilience, and unity prevailed. I realized that my fear of loss had turned to hope, allowing room to embrace the possibility of evolving tradition, while protecting our core values. Together, we had not only navigated a potential disaster, but also forged a new path forward, a vibrant future honoring both the past and what lay ahead. The days following our transformative brunch were filled with an exhilarating mix of hope and renewed commitment. What had once felt like a battle of ideals between Kiara and me had evolved into a collaborative effort focused on our family's future. I often found myself reflecting on how we navigated our differences and emerged with a greater sense of respect for each other. As we began to plan seasonal events that blended our cherished traditions with fresh ideas, the atmosphere in our family shifted. Kiara proposed a spring picnic to honor our founding family recipes while allowing younger relatives to contribute modern dishes. The prospect of laughter and stories shared over a picnic blanket under blooming trees filled me with anticipation. I envisioned a day where I could reclaim the warmth of family, an antidote to the tension we had faced just weeks before. Kiara and I began communicating more often outside of family gatherings. Casual text exchanges turned into brainstorming sessions, and I found myself appreciating her creativity and willingness to collaborate. One evening, she came over to finalize picnic details, the scent of fresh coffee wafting through the kitchen. As we spread recipes across the table, I sensed lingering concerns gnawing at me. "Kiara," I began, with a knot forming in my stomach. "I want to make sure we balance both our visions and values in these events. It's important that everyone feels heard and valued." Her face lit up with understanding. "Absolutely, Sophia. We could assign roles based on everyone's strengths, ensuring they contribute meaningfully to the process. That way they feel invested." In that moment, it felt like we were forging a partnership. With each suggestion we made, our conversation flowed naturally, and I felt the weight lift from my shoulders as we brainstormed roles for our upcoming event. The anticipation of the picnic revitalized me, transforming our family dynamics from potential conflict to collaborative support. As the day of the picnic approached, excitement bubbled within me. My thoughts danced between details, like the way we would honor Grandma's famous potato salad while welcoming Kiara's vibrant summer salads. I envisioned us coming together, sharing good food and laughter, rebuilding our family bonds. The morning of the picnic arrived with sunlight pouring through my window, igniting my spirits. As I set up at the park, I could hardly contain my excitement. I managed the arrangements while Kiara coordinated the layout, merging our visions beautifully. As I looked around, I saw family members gathering, their faces lit with anticipation. The mix of colors and the emergence of our cherished recipes brought a tangible warmth. For the first time in a long while, it felt as if we were united, no longer bound by past disagreements but eager to create new memories. Throughout the afternoon, laughter enveloped us, drowning out the echoes of past tensions. Family members exchanged dishes, their enjoyment palpable as they shared stories related to each recipe. I watched mothers explain the significance of traditional dishes to their children, feeling my heart swell at the sight of the next generation learning about their legacy. In that sunlight-drenched park, I realized we had woven a new narrative together, one that embraced both our history and our future. Moving from conflict to collaboration brought us closer than ever. I marveled at the resilience and unity we had fostered. This picnic was a new beginning, a fresh chapter where every voice resonated, and both tradition and change could coexist harmoniously. The journey had not been easy, but it had been worth every moment, allowing for love to flourish among us. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the gathering, I breathed in the essence of this new reality. A family stronger than ever, ready to evolve while honoring the roots that bound us. We had transformed potential rifts into a celebration of connection, emerging as a united family poised to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, hand in hand, heart to heart.